All right. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Kasey Johnson. I'm here with my friend, Dr. Benulis, and you've probably recognized his face. He's come on and chatted with me a few times. So what's up, Dr. Ben?
Hey, doing pretty well this morning. How you doing?
Doing great. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend, Tim Sheath, because he just hooked me up with my first ethics shirt. I don't know if you've heard of their brand. Have you heard of them at all, Dr. Ben?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I thought they took the eye out. Like I thought
They did. They did. This is like, it's kind of one of like the classic shirts. So like it's just
okay.
they still have some with the eye, but this one has it. But they're doing some amazing work. So and he just came on the podcast and is just a really cool guy. So yeah, just want to give them a shout out because he's doing some really awesome work. But yeah, no, Dr. Ben just put out an ebook and it's about the digestive system. And he wants to share like what it's all about and what you can find in there. So Dr. Ben, I'm excited to dive into it because I know the stuff you talk about in there is stuff that people have so many questions about. So I guess let's dive into it, you know?
Yeah, sure. So this is something I've been working on for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, the whole reason that even am a chiropractor, plant-based doctor is because 8 years ago I was having terrible digestive issues, and I had all kinds of awful symptoms. We don't need to get into the details, but it was one of those things where I was really suffering in silence because it's not something you want to talk about with people, and you just sort of
It's kind of embarrassing, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
it totally is. And you don't want to, you avoid social situations, and you're like constantly like, when is this gonna, you know, when is this gonna hit,
Mm-hmm.
and having like a lot of symptoms after every meal, and just you sort of get to a point where it's like your new normal, and then just like, well, I'm just gonna have to deal with this.
Right.
And so I went to a lot of like mainstream medical doctors, gastroenterologists, got kind of shuffled around by the system, getting put on different medications, and never really getting any better.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was like, okay, this whole thing that they say about the food that I'm eating doesn't really affect it. I started to question that. I was like, okay, I have enough common sense to say maybe that's not true, and maybe I'll start, making tweaks to my diet. And that was like really the beginning of the journey with healing it.
Yeah. Because I mean, what you hear, it's like, if you have digestive issues, obviously people do think probiotics, prebiotics, bone broth, right? Go eat some yogurt, but like that can be doing more damage than it is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think supplements do have a place.
Mm-hmm.
But for, something like yogurt, it's like, okay, maybe it has all these probiotics, but it also, like, it's a double-edged sword. It also has, casein, which is highly
Mm-hmm.
carcinogenic, hormones like bovine growth hormone and testosterone, estrogen, all that stuff that you don't want.
Right. Or it's so processed that it doesn't actually have the probiotics that they claim,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing with probiotics, and not to, I think they have their place, but if you're not laying down the proper, soil on which to grow them, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. Like, you can slam probiotics all day, but if you're not eating the food that the good bacteria like to eat, then
Right.
good bacteria aren't going to stick around.
No, that's an awesome point to make. And like, so with your book, like what kind of things are you telling people to do so they are laying that good foundation, that good soil?
Sure. Good question. So you said the word prebiotic, and I am a fan of those.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people who don't know what a prebiotic is, it's essentially fiber, okay? It's the food that the bacteria eat. And the evidence is very clear that the food that you eat has a much greater effect on your gut microbiome, like what bacteria populate your gut,
Mm-hmm.
the good and the bad. So the food that you eat is much more important than what probiotics you take. Because like we said, you can take probiotics all day, but if you're not, putting down the fertile soil for which
Right.
ones, they're going to stick around. So what is that? Well, not just fiber. I'm not saying take Metamucil. I don't think that's a good strategy. Fruits and vegetables. Okay, this is my breakfast here. We've got this is
I like it.
entire watermelon in the blender. Okay, one ingredient, and so that's what we're talking when we're talking what food to feed the good bacteria.
That's cool. I love that you brought up the Metamucil thing because, like, I mean, as a standard American diet, like we are deficient in fiber, and nobody can argue that. You're not going to have any physician out there tell you that that's wrong. So, laying that good foundation. But like, when you look at somebody like that is eating a lot of, let's say, fruits, right? You're drinking that whole watermelon. there's so many people that will fight you and say, Dr. Ben, the sugar, like, what's up, right? So what do you say to that?
So first off, this is blended watermelon. This is like the canister of the blender. So it's still got the fiber in it. Gotcha. And so fiber plays not only a role in feeding your bacteria, but it also slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. So it acts as kind of a slow down mechanism, so that if I juiced the watermelon or I drank Coca-Cola or something that didn't have fiber in it,
right?
Yes, the sugar would just rush into my bloodstream.
Watermelon flavored Coca-Cola, we can't go that route.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that, it's been so long, I forget these things exist. That people
I don't know if that exists. So if Coca-Cola is listening and you take that idea, I want full credit.
Well, I remember seeing that there was, in Japan, people really like to put salt on watermelon, and they actually invented a salted watermelon flavored Pepsi.
Wow. I haven't seen that. That's that's kind of crazy.
So people might question, there's all this sugar in this watermelon that you're drinking. Okay. Well, it's in a package with the fiber. It's not refined. So refined is when they separate the sugar out from the rest of the plant. And they usually take out the fiber. Mm-hmm. But when you have sugar and fiber in a whole package, and I'm not saying like pour Metamucil and sugar into water and okay, like eat food in its whole form, fruit in its whole form. The fiber is going to slow down the absorption of the sugar into the bloodstream, so you don't get that insulin spike. Gotcha. So that's very important, and this is covered in the ebook. Eating fruit in its whole form, blended, I still consider its whole form. You haven't refined out any of the fiber. So you have the fiber there feeding the good bacteria, and you also have it there slowing the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. And both of those things are super clutch important.
Yeah, no, I think that is super important, and like, when you hear that argument, like it's tough, because I know we've been taught that same thing for a long time, but it is important to know that it's the source, it's the fiber. And I love that aspect of it. And I love that you cover that in detail in your book, because I don't think it's covered enough. Like, what other tips are you giving people besides that? Because I know it's not just that. There's a whole bunch of different things that you can do to really build that foundation.
Sure, that's a good question, because I will say that changing my diet made a huge difference in my digestion, but it wasn't the end all be all. And a lot of people, especially when they get into a plant-based diet and they see that, a plant-based diet has the ability to reverse type 2 diabetes, reverse heart disease, help some people fight cancer in some cases, help with autoimmune disease and all these other chronic conditions. They begin to believe that it's like the panacea of everything. And if everybody just did a plant-based diet, like, everybody would be cured of everything.
Right. It's like, why am I not Rich Roll by now? Right.
Yeah, exactly. and I was sucked up in that dogma for a while too.
Yeah, sure.
And not that I have anything, like, I still follow a plant-based diet religiously. I love it. It's great, but it's not the whole picture. And so I think what happens with digestion is that there's this big role that when I really started to study how the digestive system works and the physiology behind it, I realized how critical of a role the nervous system plays, because the nervous system can shut on and off digestion.
Right.
And this is something that a lot of people don't realize, that you have something called a fight or flight mechanism, that when your body is stressed or in shock or scared, say, a car stops in front of you in traffic and you have to slam on the brakes, or someone yells at you, or, some stressful event happens in your life, your fight or flight mechanism gets triggered. And that's also called the sympathetic nervous system. And so what the body does in response to that is it shuts off digestion, because it says, okay, this digestion where we're squeezing food through a 30-foot long tube that's going through us, that takes a lot of energy. We don't have energy to do that right now. We want to run away from this problem.
Right. It's like, I have to run away from the lion. I don't have time to digest this watermelon I just ate, right?
Yeah, it's
just your body's so smart. It has to prioritize its energy. Like, it's crazy when you break it down like that, how smart the body is.
Yes, it's smart, and it's adapted to live in a society that we no longer live in, or environment we no longer live in, where we're basically getting doused, 24/7 with these microdoses of stress. And so for a lot of people, their nervous system is in this fight or flight mode where digestion is shut off. So that means that things are going to sit in their intestines and ferment and, putrefy and acidify and cause all kinds of problems.
Right. And you got to think of and then just knowing that fact alone, it's like, then what are you eating? What's sitting in there extra long? Because if you're eating a bunch of animal products, that's literally rotting in your intestines for an even longer period of time. So you have to think about, okay, well, maybe this is why I'm extra fatigued. Maybe this is why I have IBS or Crohn's or whatever digestive issue that you're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. So it is a combination of factors. So the diet plays a role, but the stress on the body and the tone of the nervous system plays an important role too.
Right.
So what we break down in the book is different techniques for bringing down that fight or flight response and increasing what's called the rest and digest response, or the parasympathetic nervous system. And so a lot of people that, there's a lot of people like talking about digestive health out there, and I found that almost no one was talking about this. And when I started to get into this and some of these techniques to readjust the tone of the nervous system and get you more out of a fight or flight and more into a rest and digest, I got tremendous benefits. I got we're probably about 75% of the way there with the diet. The last 25, and I was really frustrated that I wasn't at 100%. And the last 25% really came from these techniques like, going to bed early, limiting screen time before bed, meditation, breath work. These things really made a huge, huge difference.
For sure.
Health.
Yeah. Even like you were just saying, something as simple as screen time. Some people that's not an option, but so for myself, I decided to use it on my phone, right? If it's past a certain time, my phone dims. It has a nighttime mode, and that gets rid of the blue light that, or at least decreases it. So it helps you go to sleep better. And I have the same thing set up on my MacBook, and it's really played a huge role. And it looks funny, for somebody that doesn't know, they walk by and my screen's orange, but it's but you get used to it, and it's really crazy, how much it really does help.
Is this an app? I actually haven't heard of this.
Yeah, well, your phone already has it. The phone is called, I'll let you know right now. The phone is called Night Shift. For me, I have it kicked on from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. So it gradually kind of turns more dim, kind of almost like an orange, sepia tint kind of thing. The computer app is called, I can't think of it right off. Oh, it's called Flux. I think it's called FLUX. It's something like that. But it kicks on. You pick what time frame, and then it just gradually dims, and then it's really cool though. But it makes a huge difference. Just decreases the blue lights. You see people wearing the glasses. This kind of helps do that for you.
Yeah. And so that light coming at you, especially after the sun goes down, is essentially shocking your nervous system into thinking okay, it's still light out. Yeah. You need to be up and aware, and we're essentially what people forget is we're essentially tropical beings. Okay, we evolved around the equator where the sun went up at 7 a.m. and went down at 7 p.m. and we slept 12 hours a day. Right. And any more than that it's really starting to put a shock on our system. And so, also we're tropical beings. We grew up, we evolved in tropical rainforests where what did we eat? We ate fruit. Okay. Got a lot of D3. Yeah. And so the more we get away from this tropical environment, the more stress it puts on our system. And we create things like clothing. We wouldn't need clothing in Costa Rica. It's always 70 degrees and sunny, right? But we live in a temperature, so we have we create these things to sort of take the tropics with us where we go. But really, the closer we can make our lives to that environment, the less stress we're going to put on our system, and the more health we're going to experience. Yeah, no, I love that. And let's touch on a little bit before we finish up in a little bit, but I want to touch a little bit on the breathing and meditation aspect that you touch on in the book, because I think it's super important, especially like you said, we live in a very stress-filled world that you can be having those micro stressors at work all day, at home, wherever you're at school, wherever those are, and those are going to impact you bigger than you think. That can have a larger impact than diet sometimes, because if you live in a state of high stress, your body doesn't have a chance. Totally. Yeah. And another thing is that people get so worked up about getting the diet perfect that they stress themselves out, and actually would probably have health outcomes if they just chilled out a little bit. Right. They wound up on the diet and just did the best that they could. But these conditions like orthorexia, which is debatable whether it exists. But anyway, to answer your question, breath work and meditation. So Mainly what I do now is like a Vipassana awareness meditation, which sounds complicated. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's basically just sitting down and for a set period of time or not a set period of time, and just trying to clear my mind and just focus on my breath. So that's the one thing my mind focuses on, just noticing the breathe in through the mouth, out through, into the nose, out through the mouth, and at a slow pace. And every time the mind wanders onto something else, which we'll do, 10, 20, 30, 100 times a session, just bringing it back to the breath. I think Tim Sheaf talks about this too a lot.
Yeah, he's really big into that. And it really, it's cool to hear everybody's story with it, because like, it sounds so simple, but I mean, literally without breath, like you aren't alive. Like you have to really I know that sounds like super basic and simple, but like when you're stressed, you don't breathe properly. And it's just like, if you can't get that proper breath intake in, like you're affecting your whole system, the way your brain functions. It's so much more complex than just like, obviously if you don't breathe, you die. Right. But it really is more complex than we give it credit for.
Yeah. And so if you think about when you're breathing in a stressful situation, oftentimes it's like rapid, shallow breaths.
Right.
And so you may be doing, if you're chronically stressed, from which almost everybody is in,
right.
21st century American Western society, you're not really getting those full breaths, all that oxygen saturation into your lungs and eventually into your cells. Taking time to really focus on deep breathing really does wonders for the nervous system, because it basically tells it like, okay, we're not in this fight or flight state anymore. We're in this relaxed state, and you can just calm down.
Right.
So the breath does wonders for the nervous system.
Do you have a certain time frame that you recommend for people to do that kind of just really focused breathing? Or do you think just, even if it's 30 seconds to a minute, like, I mean, obviously anything's going to benefit, but have you found through, like just research or just experience, that a certain time frame really benefits the body at a higher level?
That's a good question. So I think for me in the beginning, like, it's a very difficult habit to build. Like I'm going to be straight up with everybody, is not like,
for sure.
Sit down and like meditate 1 hour a day in the morning, 1 hour a day in the evening, starting tomorrow, every day consistently. Like you're probably unrealistic.
Yeah.
And so for me, it started with like just 5 minutes a day, once a day. And that was hard. That was like really tough. Like I would be sitting there, the monkey mind would shut down the way, and I want to get up and just like, kick everything over and scream because this is driving me insane.
Well, it's like, okay, I have a lot to do this morning. Do I really take 5 to 10 minutes to sit here and do nothing when I really need to get up and get things done? And that's kind of the trap of it, because that's what I do. I think, okay, I'll do it later because I have to do this. But if I would just take 5-10 minutes, it's nothing. And the rest of my day is going to be more productive. And I think that's the mindset we have to get in the 5 minute a day thing. It's habit changing. And then you can add more time, right?
Yeah. And so I've slowly ratcheted it up for now. I just pretty much do 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening.
Nice.
I try to do that first 15 minutes as early as possible, like when I wake up, if I can. And then the last 15 minutes, I try to do it like not too late in the evening, because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I just want to go to bed.
Right.
So I tried like after dinner or something like that.
No, I like that.
But yeah, it's really a habit you got to build on your own. I use an app called Insight Timer, which I think is great. It doesn't do anything special other than like it keeps track of your streak. Excuse me. So you don't want to like break the streak. But there's a bunch of great meditation apps out there. Headspace, people like.
Right. I want to give a quick shout out to one of my friends puts meditation classes up on Insight, and his name is Lou Redman. He was a past podcast guest, and like, he's awesome. So, I mean, I just want to give him a quick plug, because like, I love what he's doing a lot. So.
Oh, I'll check that out. Okay.
Yeah. Give him a follow too. Lou Redman, just give him a follow on Instagram too, if you guys are listening. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And have you heard the quote? Like, it's like, if you don't have time to meditate for 10 minutes a day, then you need to meditate for 2 hours a day. I mean, it's like something like that. Like, it's just, I don't know if that's exact words, but it makes sense, but it's.
Yeah. When I first heard that just made me furious.
Right.
But, it's like, okay, I'm not a Tibetan monk, like in Nepal. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of, like I said, slowly ratchet it up at a pace that works for you. And, also another thing where people get stuck with meditation is they think that like it's so chaotic and they're having such a hard time with it, they must be doing it wrong, or they must be not good at it. And I would honestly say, like, the worse it goes, like the more chaotic it feels, and the more you feel like you can't concentrate or you can't stay focused, like the more beneficial it is to you.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially building that muscle of focus and attention and awareness. And so it's like you got to go through like a whole bunch of like awful meditations to sort of get to the point where you get good at it. I mean, you never, like, there's been times where I'm like, oh, I'm getting good at this. You know? But it's like, oh, I think you're deriving the most benefit in the beginning when it's like painful and difficult.
Yeah. And I've used Headspace a few times, and it's actually pretty cool because like they give little video examples sometimes before you do one of the classes. And like, one of them was like, think of it as like a busy highway. It's like the cars aren't going to stop, but if you're on the sidelines, you're aware the cars are there, but it's just being able to like know the cars are there, but you're not in the mess, if that makes sense. And I'm probably like butchering that class, but it's just like being aware the cars aren't going to leave, they're there, but just being able to be on the sideline, know they're there, and still be able to do your thing. And that's probably very simplified about how they actually said it. But I thought it was interesting though how they kind of broke that down. So
yeah, and so that awareness is what really benefits you, because then it's like, okay, there are all these cars rushing by, and you know I'm still alive, I'm still doing my thing, everything's okay. And so when stressful events do happen, you're not caught up in it as much. It doesn't freak you out as bad. You're like, okay, you can maintain a clear head and deal with it because you built that awareness.
Yeah, for sure.
The nervous system doesn't get triggered as much.
No, I 100% agree. 100% agree. And like, was there anything else in the book that you wanted to touch on before we kind of close out?
Sure. So there's a breathwork exercise in there, which is sort of like I don't want to say it's like next level meditation, but it's a way of really, really stimulating that rest and digest nervous system, because you're really getting in there with the breath and really telling the nervous system to calm down.
So what's the difference between that and meditation?
So usually with breath work, there's some sort of like like motion that you're doing with your arms, your body, touching your body in a certain position and trying to breathe into it. There's different ones, and maybe you're breathing in through your mouth and out through your nose, or in through your nose, out through your mouth. And it just really focuses your attention on those things, and really like, I think meditation's great. I think breath work is something you want to incorporate as well. And so like really focused breathing while thinking about a certain thought, doing a certain motion. It really integrates the body and the breath and the mind together. And
that's cool.
It's like that when I started doing that. So that was like when things really, really improved for me. So there's an exercise in there and that you can do that I really like. That's in the ebook. It's really simple. It's just like finding the most painful spot, especially if you're having digestive issues and you're having like, pain in a certain part of your abdomen. You can really focus your breath on that. And I found that it's like really good for even those like acute situations.
That's cool. And like, do you have a time frame that you personally do for that type of breath work?
Yeah, I do 5 minutes a day.
Cool. Nice. We should jump on here and do like a 5-minute breath work class if you're down.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, no pressure. Just to kind of, we could give some people some examples of like what to do and like the different things that they could kind of find in the book,
Okay.
Yeah, we should plan that for sure. But no, I love that. And I love that you did make this ebook. It sounds like, just super interesting and has all those, like all of that great information there and questions that people have. So like what's the actual title of the book? And then where can people go to check that out?
Sure. So it's called the Digestive Rescue Blueprint. And I just have a bit.ly link, bit.ly/digestive blueprint. And you can check it out there.
Awesome. Is that free or is that a paid ebook?
Oh, it's 100% free.
Cool.
You sign up for my email list.
Nice.
That's the only catch. I send not a big emailer. I probably should send out more, but you get to stay up to date with me and what I'm doing.
Love it. No, I love that. Yeah. So you guys go check that out. And Dr. Ben, we will definitely jump on here soon. I want to do the class. I want to practice that myself, and other people can kind of join in and see what it's all about too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay,
cool. But we'll talk soon, Dr. Ben. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.